do this all day. A bunch of a-holes. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Hello and welcome back to the Infinity Saga and beyond. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and I have our co-host here for the WandaVision recaps, Casey McGeorge.
How's it going, everybody? Glad to be back. Sorry about last week.
It's okay. Let's clear that up again here for people that may not have. Sometimes people might have skipped an episode, but we recorded a great episode, about an hour and a half episode, recapping episod 5, and then there was some audio issues, so I actually had to re-record that. But other than that, it's all good. It's good to have Casey back here for the home stretch of episodes we have, and Your football team is world champions. How's it feel?
Oh, man, it feels great. I haven't had this feeling since 2002 when I was in Iraq and they won, or getting ready to go in Iraq and they won. I was expecting a close game. I was expecting a great game. It was a blowout, but I was not unhappy with said blowout.
No, yeah, I remember the two times that the Ravens have been in the Super Bowl. The first time against the Giants was a blowout, and that was great. When you're a fan, you don't want any doubt, And then in the second time, it was a blowout till the power went out in the stadium, and then it started coming. The 49ers started coming back. So
yeah, that one was really weird. Like, I think there was some. I mean, I can't say for sure, but yeah, there was some shenanigans going on with that. New Orleans has hosted how many events, and all of a sudden the power goes out in the Superdome during a blowout?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little fishy, but you know what? The Ravens pulled that one out, so I was happy with that. But it seemed to have been going that way where I was like, oh, every time we're in the Super Bowl, we're just going to blow out the other team. That would be great. Today we're recapping WandaVision Episode 6, which is called All New Halloween Spooktacular, written by Chuck Hayward and Peter Cameron, directed by Matt Shakman. It premiered February 12th, 2021 on Disney+, with the theme song by Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez, and the score by Christophe Beck, as usual. Here is the synopsis for you. Disturbances on Halloween separate Wanda from Vision, who looks into anomalous activity in Westview. What was your initial thoughts on this one, Casey?
Wow. I wasn't sure what to expect. I saw that this was going to be a Halloween episode, and we were going to get their classic costumes, in this episode. So I was kind of curious how they were going to do that. I think they pulled that off nicely, as we'll get to. I like the tension, and there was one point. Usually I watch on my couch, and I live by myself. Single, so usually I lay on my couch, have a blanket on me, and I'm just kind of laying there chilling, watching the show. There was a point in this episode where I had to get up and sit up straight on my couch because it I don't want to say it took a turn, but things went kind of weird, and from that point I was like I can't miss anything whatsoever that happens from this point on. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. My initial thought here, I the first time I watched this one, I actually probably thought it was the weakest of the season so far. I thought a lot better about it on my rewatch, and not saying that I didn't like it. I did enjoy it. Every episode of WandaVision has been great for me, but it was just so far. I think this one might be my least favorite. I feel like the aesthetic didn't land as much as some of the other ones. Of course, this was we'll get into it here, because the first bit it opens up with actually is the theme song. There's no cold open, just right into the theme song, and it's a very Malcolm in the Middle type style.
This was the most 90s thing
yes.
I have ever seen, between the Malcolm in the Middle intro, the Extreme Shark commercial that we'll get to later.
Yeah.
Like, this was pure and peak 90s. You watch Family Guy at all?
Yeah.
There was an episode a couple seasons ago where Chris was failing history or something, so they brought him with Stewie's time machine to go back and see a bunch of these things from history to help him out. And there was one point where they went and they said, well, this is all the 90s was. And it was like a dude with a hoodie, and he was doing the Running Man to a certain song. I can't even think of the name of the song. And Chris was like, this is the entire 90s? And both Ryan and Stu were like, yeah, pretty much, this is the 90s. This episode was the 90s.
It was. Even though what's funny is Malcolm in the Middle didn't start till 2000, but it did have, a lot of these type of shows started kind of popping up in like the later 90s, where you get kind of the, the non-studio audience comedies really started popping up more frequently around that time.
Now that I think about it, Malcolm in the Middle might have been the first sitcom I remember watching where they kind of broke the fourth wall and would address the audience on a regular basis. Obviously, there was Saved by the Bell, where Zach would do that occasionally.
Yeah,
but that was an occasional thing. But I could be wrong, but Malcolm in the Middle is the first one I really remember where Malcolm would do that on a regular basis, and that and I definitely got that with the kids in this one.
Yeah. By the way, Malcolm in the Middle, a very underrated comedy. Not a lot of people talk about it.
It
anymore.
Really is. It was a lot better than people give it credit for.
Yeah. And
there's the weird conspiracy theory, or the weird. Have you heard about the weird connection between Breaking Bad and that?
I mean, other than Bryan Cranston, no, I don't know of.
Well, I think, I haven't seen Breaking Bad, but I think Bryan Cranston dies in the end of it. I don't know. Spoiler alert, it's like 10 years old or something. I don't know. But they said maybe that was him and Malcolm in the Middle was actually his second life, like after he left behind his life of crime. And that's how he was going to hide out, was somewhere in suburbia.
I could see him doing that, but no, that's not the actual. Let's just say it's not canon.
Yeah, it's not true. But it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So I didn't think they nailed the aesthetic as much of it. Was very, like, for this one, I feel like this was the most inspired by one show that they've done yet. Like when we were in the 50s and the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you could they would have the 70s was very much more so Brady Bunch than other 70s, but it kind of fit the whole 70s aesthetic. This was very just Malcolm in the Middle, I felt like. But it did have, that 90s feel, the commercial especially, that we'll get to later here. But it's Halloween, and the boys are talking to the camera. It was Billy and Tommy talking to the camera, talking about Halloween and talking about Uncle Pietro, who's sleeping on the couch at 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Because what good is a brother coming to visit you for? Like, that's
right.
That's peak lazy brother right there.
He's sleeping. The boys, Tommy wants to wake him up. Billy's a little scared of, I guess, Uncle Pietro. I don't know if we're supposed to read into that or not. I guess we'll kind of talk about that later when we get more Pietro stuff here. But Wanda comes down in her old school comic costume, and I like the way that they made these work with, she said she's a Sokovian fortune teller. I thought that was a really cool way to, she's not dressing up as Scarlet Witch. She's dressing up as something else, but it looks like the original Scarlet Witch costume. So I really I really liked the way that they worked that in there. We get Vision coming down in his comic suit, and they mention him as being a Mexican wrestler.
Lucha Libre wrestler. The weird thing is, as a wrestling fan, I'm not a big Lucha Libre fan, but yeah, you could definitely see that being a Lucha Libre costume, without a doubt.
Definitely, yeah. I was like, how are they gonna when we first saw the trailers and stuff? I was like, how are they gonna have them dressed up for Halloween as their original costumes? And I really felt like they made it work pretty well here. We get Vision, who's actually saying that he cannot stay with Wanda and that he's going undercover for the Neighborhood Watch, which I thought was actually a great callback to episode 2 when he joined the Neighborhood Watch. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so far, it seemed like they kind of mended their beef a little bit. They did talk about, the boys kind of mentioned that the parents have not been fighting, but have been a little different recently. I think they even kind of hint at it a bit by Vision kind of saying something and then taking a moment before, or Wanda says something and he kind of takes a moment before responding, and then he gives like a smile and he responds back something funny, and it was kind of like, it could have led to an argument, but he kind of changed up, and you're like, oh no, everything's good here. But then we do see later tension, a bit later as he says he has to leave. But
and so some of the tension definitely started here because they talk about a few things, and Peter gets involved with Pietro. I gotta call him Peter. I can't do the Pietro thing. Uncle Pietro there. He says he'll help him out. Vision goes to give Wanda a kiss, and she kind of just puts her cheek out for him instead of giving him the kiss. As a guy who was married twice and who's that's not a good sign, bro. It's not a good sign. Someone's definitely angry at you when that happens.
We get Pietro volunteering to kind of fill in and be the role model or the dad figure for the Halloween trick-or-treating.
And before
not the best role model. Yeah, go ahead.
We do get the actual Quicksilver
costume. Yeah, he runs out of the house.
Well, not even the costume, but we get him doing the Quicksilver thing when he's playing with the kids, where he's running around all over the place.
Oh, yeah. When he scares them when he wakes up, yeah.
We also, I think in the very beginning, we get a shot or a quick glimpse of the other Pietro. I don't know how to phrase this.
In the previously on, it shows a clip from Age of Ultron of Aaron Taylor Johnson, I believe is his name, being shot in Age of Ultron. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, then we see him doing the Quicksilver thing. He's playing with the kids. He's running around crazy all over the place. At some point, he takes the kids, and it takes them out. And I think Wanda has to put her hand out and stop him from causing any more havoc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we get the setup there for the Halloween arc there, but then we kind of cut to outside of the Hex pretty early on here, and they're bringing the missile in from the drone that Wanda threw at them. I guess it was last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. It was last week, right?
It was last week, yeah.
Where she kind of throws the drone out there, and we get Monica getting upset at acting director Hayward, as he is looking for pretty much any excuse to kind of try to take out Wanda here, and she kind of is starting to get a little suspicious of the way that Hayward is acting. He gets so upset at them that he actually kicks out Jimmy, Darcy, and Monica. And he even mentions that he knows Monica's history with Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel.
How do they know all this stuff?
I assume it has to be in some files somewhere. I mean, her mom was best friends with Carol Danvers. I feel like that is probably documented from when they were both in the Air Force. And then her mom founded SWORD, I guess.
But I mean, like, and maybe I'm just reading too much into this, but okay, like, I get the Avengers and Tony Stark and them have knowledge of a lot of these different things. And eventually they have knowledge of the Mind Stone and the Soul Stone and all these other things. I think when we talked about last week, they brought up the Mind Stone. Like, how do they know about these things is my question. Like even at highest clearance levels, there's still a number of things that I don't know. I'm just struggling to figure out how they have knowledge of. And maybe that's just me.
Yeah, so I'm assuming some of these things had to have been disclosed by the Avengers especially with the Sokovian Accords becoming a thing. Vision was somebody that was pro-Sokovia Accords at first, so maybe, when they're also getting down who is who, like that was part of the thing is like they have to know whose secret identity is who, and you have to follow the law and that kind of thing. Maybe they're taking like some sort of like power database, you know what I'm saying? So like Vision would say, oh, I got this thing in my head that's this thing and it does this stuff, and somebody up there in the government has that information. I'm assuming SWORD, with this Carol Danvers note here, I'm assuming Maria kept files on this stuff. And once she died and he took over, he would then have the clearance to read those files. Is I'm assuming how he had 5 years to read all that stuff. Or 3 years at least to read all that stuff. So I'm assuming he knows some of that stuff from there. Last week Monica mentioned and Jimmy mentioned about how Carol and Wanda almost took out Thanos themselves. Once the portals opened up in Endgame, there were like hundreds of people there that could have seen this, and I'm assuming, pass that information onward. Not all of them were even superheroes either, so you could have your normal, people that are coming through the portals that are like military or SWORD agents or lesser superheroes that have passed that information on somehow. But
that's something I didn't even think of. Like, the fact is, like, when you have the Avengers fighting a Titan and various aliens, like, if I'm a regular dude and I happen to come back, man, I'm trying to get out of here as quick as possible, man. There's nothing I can do in this situation. Like, I can't help you.
So you were somebody that was in the military. I want to get your point on this. And somebody that was in the military, if they send you to go battle next to and alongside the Avengers to defeat Thanos, are you going AWOL there?
Okay, look. So if I'm still on active duty, right, and I get called up and they're like, you're gonna be fighting next to the Avengers, that's my job. Like, I had to do it in Iraq 3 times. It is what it is. I'm probably gonna write some letters before I go to some people saying, hey, I'm probably not gonna make it back. Here's how I feel about you. Hope everybody stays well. And I'm gonna go out and do my duty. Right? That's one thing entirely. But if somehow I get blipped back into existence, right? And this portal opens up. And the next thing I know, I'm way in the back. I'm 5'6", so I'm somewhere way in the back. And all of a sudden, there's crowds of people in front of me. And next thing I know, there's all these Wakandan people in front of me. And Black Panther's walking by me. Howard the Duck with some weird gun walks by me. And Tony Stark and Captain America's up there. And Captain America's holding Thor's hammer, for Christ's sake. And I see this towering figure across from him, the Titan Thanos, and hundreds, if not thousands, of aliens or whatever they are. Like, if I get blipped back into existence during that, dude, I might have to go back through the blip. I can't do anything there. Like, what purpose am I going to serve? None.
You just shoot some aliens, I guess.
One, they're aliens. Like, there's no guarantee my M16 or M4 or whatever it is that I'm with is going to do anything. In one of the Hulk movies, for Christ's sakes, he tore the turret off an M1 tank. I used to be on M1 tanks, right? Not only that, Hulk's there. Hulk literally tore the turret off one of my tanks. At this point, like, I'm useless. I'm basically like something. I'm one of those dudes. Okay, have you ever seen Austin Powers?
No,
The Austin Powers series? Okay, what was it? The third one? Where Michael Caine played Austin Powers' dad?
No, I have no idea.
At one point, some dude like brings out a little pistol on him, and Michael Caine's like, "Really? Are you serious? Do you know who I am?" He's like, "Do you know how many anonymous henchmen I've taken out in my life? Look at you. You don't even have a name tag. Like, you don't stand a chance. Just go ahead and lay down." And the dude kind of like realizes, and he just puts his gun down and like lays down. Like, he just kind of realizes, like, yeah, I'm not going to win this one. The average person.
They call those red shirts in
it's the Star Trek, bro. Yeah, it's all the dudes with the red shirts with no name tag. But Michael Caine was seriously like, "Look at you. You don't even have a name tag. Come on. Just go ahead and get down." That's good. That's going to be me and you. Like, we come back from the blip, and there's an intergalactic war, and we see a 58-foot Titan on the other side. Oh, dude, I'm done. Like, I'm just.
I mean, even if I was active duty, I think I'm going AWOL at that point. There's no hope for me.
You know, you'd be surprised. I never thought. I was on tanks for 15 of my 17 years. I came in '96 after the Gulf War, heard all these things from the Gulf War, and I remember watching September 11th. I was still on active duty, and I remember watching that, saying, "This is it. Like, I'm going someplace." Excuse me. Wasn't too long after that I did. And I mean, I have a lot of memories about the prep up and getting ready to go into Iraq, and we knew what we were getting into. But we also knew there was a chance we might not come back. And it just is what it is. Like, and especially in my situation, I was on tanks. Like, that it's a 4-man crew. They all have to work together. Like, everyone has to depend on each other. And so it was one of those situations where I was like, okay, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to give our best. I have every confidence, because you train your own people as well. So it's one thing to train to take on the Iraqi army or Russians or North Koreans. These guys weren't trained to take on Thanos and his intergalactic alien army. Like, there's no training for that.
That's true. I'm assuming now there will be. At somehow. I mean, I guess they're trying to create weapons.
Well, yeah, not only that, but I can imagine the weapons advancement that they might have for the military based on everything that they have. But I'm just thinking about that. Like, yeah, like I said, to get back to what we were talking about, like, I get, they know there was a battle, but who told them that Wanda almost took out Thanos and Captain Marvel almost took out Thanos? Like, that either has to come from somebody who was there, or one of them had to be there to see that.
I would think that maybe, like after the battle, especially it sounds like the Sokovia Accords are still active from, Jimmy and other people citing that Vision is breaking them or Wanda is breaking them. But I'm assuming after that they had to have some sort of, I guess, I don't know, would it be called a deposition or something, a debrief, where people that were on the battlefield would say so. So maybe even Wanda mentions this, or somebody that was near Wanda and saw this, or, Carol says, well, I almost was able to take out Thanos, and then it came down to, Tony having to do it, and he snapped, and he died doing his snap, and that's how he died, because they have to keep records of, once I guess Tony died, they have to figure out how, and I don't know. I'm assuming there's something like that where they've, on the battlefield, have had to say exactly what happened, and it either came from the horse's mouth or it came from people right next to them. So I guess that's enough of an answer for me, I guess. So we'll see how, if they keep getting more detailed about what they know about that battle, because that's interesting. But so he removes Darcy, Jimmy, and Monica. And Monica says that, it looks like Hayward was trying to get, kind of any excuse to get rid of them here.
He did my people wrong there. He did them wrong.
Yeah. He did. And Jimmy and Monica decide to take out the sword agents that are escorting them, And Darcy has a good line here of, like, when somebody told me that was the plan, because she was just standing there while they're just taking out these sword agents, and they, take their clothes, old school undercover style.
Okay, so I watched this, right? Now I know Wu is in the FBI, so he's got some training. He's got some hand-to-hand combat. He knows what he's doing. Side note, I'm really starting to love him as a character, man. That guy is awesome. Every week I love him more and more. Monica Rambeau, same thing. She's a sword agent. I'm not sure exactly what she did before, but I'm sure she's been trained in some hand-to-hand combat and some various other things from her time. Darcy she has a doctorate in something, correct?
Yeah, astrophysics or something.
So, it was funny when she said that, but at the same time I was thinking, like, what was she really going to do if they would have told her to play it? Like, nothing against Kat Dennings or Darcy. I just can't imagine Darcy getting physical in hand-to-hand combat or things, But maybe that's just me. I could be wrong. Maybe she did some stuff in the Thor movies that I missed. I haven't seen yet.
No, she hasn't. Yeah, it's mostly a joke there. I think that's why. I don't even think there was a plan. I think they just kind of started acting.
Just kind of did impulse. It, and it happened.
Yeah, because I don't know how else she would have been able to say that, because it's not like you knew you were being thrown out. Like the people start escorting you out, but yeah, they probably wouldn't have told Darcy anyway, because she just doesn't have the training, and she'd probably end up getting hurt somehow. So, and they were able to handle it. So they're all good. But they change into the sword outfits, and they're trying to go undercover and look for some more information about what Hayward is up to, and it cuts back to Halloween, and this is where we're kind of at this point where the day-night cycle is very different from inside and outside. It's outside, it's nighttime, but we heard it was 4 p.m. when Pietro was sleeping, and then they're outside in the bright sunlight, about to do some trick-or-treating in the town there. So. And this is all going on at the same time, so it is very interesting. We kind of had those questions before about how time works inside of there, and it is very different. We have Wanda starting to test her brother here. She asks, "Oh, who was that kid in the orphanage or whatever that had the skin problem and would always." Yeah, I forget what she says, but something, and asking Pietro for his name, and he catches on here. He says, "You're trying to test me, aren't you?" And I thought this was interesting here. So she does seem to have some doubts that this is actually Pietro, or at least the one that she knows. Do we want to talk about that now, or do we want to wait? Because I think there's some more clues later on here about if he is or isn't.
So I don't know. I think Wanda's starting to crumble. Because she's trying to test him. He's not falling for it, right? And it's just, he seems to know what's going on, but it's weird that
right.
He has a lot more knowledge than anyone else in this town.
He has knowledge of things he shouldn't, and doesn't have knowledge of things he should. So let's just jump a little ahead right now and just talk about this now while we're here, I guess, and we'll just circle back if we need to. At some point here, he's going to mention, when Vision's in trouble, your dead husband can't die twice, right?
Oof, she was not happy with that one.
He also asks at some point, well, where did you put all of the kids before? Where were you hiding the kids before? Because, as Vision mentioned in the last episode, the playground stood empty every day that he walked past it, so there was no kids in this town. But for this episode, there's kids everywhere. So Pietro seems to know that, even though he just showed up maybe a couple hours ago. It seems to be the same night from the outside perspective, but a new day in Westview, and he wasn't there when the kids thing was mentioned.
He brings up the fact that he's like, I like how you did it. You're keeping people together. Like I said, he knows.
Oh, yeah, he talks about the ethics of it. Yeah, keeping couples together. The personalities are close enough to what they are. Like nothing's really changed with the people, and they get better jobs even.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there watching this, and I was just like, he has knowledge that I'm not even sure Wanda has knowledge of. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because at one point he asks her, like, how are you doing this? And she just has that really confused look on her face.
Yeah, she doesn't remember how it started. That wasn't a lie when she told Vision that last week. We kind of find that out now, that this is her. She actually has no idea how this had started. And it makes me wonder if this is him or not. There's parts where it's like, okay, she sees his dead body the way she saw Vision's body without the Mind Stone.
Yes.
With the bullet holes.
Yes.
But still Evan Peters, not Aaron Taylor Johnson. So it's confusing on if it is or isn't, him. I'm starting to lean towards it's not. I don't know how he would have all this information unless because she made him appear there, her subconscious has put this information into him as well. But I think he has an ulterior motive here. He was asking her, how did she start this? He's trying to get information, it feels like. And he even says the line of, you can trust me, I'm your brother. I'm not your husband. I'm not a stranger. And I feel like if somebody wanted information and they were posing as somebody, they would want to pose as Pietro. That's somebody that she lost, that, they can imitate, that isn't Vision, and maybe she'd be more open to telling him some information.
So, it got lost from when we recorded last week. Last week, for everybody listening, I had a theory that maybe Monica had got a hold of Doctor Strange and pulled Pietro from one of the many alternate dimensions, realities, or whatever, to this reality. And up until about 36 seconds ago, I believed that. As you started laying all of this out of how it seems like he's trying to get more information out of her. And then we even, you brought up the line of, you can trust me, I'm your brother. I hadn't put together that maybe this is someone trying to get information out of Wanda. Like I was sticking to my gun of, I think Doctor Strange has something to do with this until just now. And I'm starting to, that makes a lot more sense. That it seems like someone is just trying to figure out what she's doing, possibly so they can figure out how to do it themselves or whatever.
Right. That's what I'm wondering. Are they trying to make something like she has for whatever reason? We don't know what their motive would be, but if he's not Pietro, then he might have his own motives for some reason to do this. And wondering where the kids were. Let's not forget that the beginning of this show started out in episode 2 with For the Children. So was it for Wanda's children, or was it for all of the children? We don't really know if that's going to circle back around, but it could, we don't really know. But let's circle back to what happened here, actually. So then, Wanda sees Herb and asks about Vision, actually, like, hey, maybe Vision can help you with that. And he mentions that Vision is actually not on duty today.
You got caught in a lie.
Yes. And let's also mention when Wanda first hears about this with Vision, when Vision says he's going to be doing neighborhood watch stuff, she says that's not what you were supposed to be doing, or that's not what you were meant to be doing, or she kind of starts saying something like that. And it seems to be that the original plan in her control that she was trying to have here is that they would all be going together as a family, and he somehow was able to kind of break away from that. And here she catches that he's actually lying to her. This isn't something that kind of went off script. It's something that is, I don't want to say nefarious, but he has his own kind of free will here as he's trying to solve what's going on in Westview.
Then there's the Herb thing of, A, I like his change to the more 90s style with the flat top and everything. That's awesome. Definitely peak 90s there. B, the comment Herb made of, do you need me to change anything?
Yeah, is there something I can do for you? Is there something you want changed? It was a very odd way of saying that.
Yeah, like when I heard that, I kind of peeked up a little bit. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, no normal person would say that to someone else.
Right, and as we know from at least episode 3, Herb kind of knows that something is wrong without being fully woken up like Norm was. He was whispering to Agnes about stuff when Vision was approaching them in the 70s episode. So there is some sort of, where he has some sort of knowledge, I guess, that one might find out more about later here. Then we kind of get cut over to Vision, who's on the outskirts of town, or a little further away from Wanda.
Well, before that, when Pietro is taking the kids around to go do trick-or-treating and things, and they have their little hijinks, and Herb's sitting there saying, oh, all the candy's gone, and now all the pumpkins are smashed, and he's saying it before it happens and everything, which was kind of cool to see. What was it? Don't go past whatever street it was.
Ellis Avenue.
Yeah, don't go past, So, two things. Don't go past Ellis Avenue. So when they said that, I kind of peeked up a little bit more as well. Like, okay, we're going to see something about Ellis Avenue in this episode at some point. And then was it here or was it later where the kids start getting their powers?
It was a little later. It was after this part.
Okay.
But we get Vision walking around, and he sees a woman who's in the middle of putting up decorations and kind of just keeps doing the same motion over and over again, and a tear starts rolling down her cheek. It seems to be, and we get more information on this later, that the people that are kind of on the edge of the town are barely active. My theory I'll tell you my theory about this, then we can kind of get your take or see if you agree, because my wife had a different read on it, actually, was that Wanda, if she's not around somebody, the people are kind of on almost like a slight autopilot that makes it look like they're kind of doing something in case of somebody, I guess, was to see it, but they aren't really active. And for the reason I think she's doing that on purpose would be, it's so draining to probably have to have control over everybody. So if you kind of put them in, like, okay, if I'm near you, you're kind of, okay, press play almost, right? And then if I'm not near you, kind of you're on pause because I can't keep wasting my energy running this whole town type of thing. And I think that's, partly why Vision, usually when he's at work and stuff, it seems to still be kind of in the center of town, which is probably enough in that area where things would be kind of running smoothly. And now that he's kind of starting to go outside of there, he's starting to see that all these people are kind of like on a pause button almost, where from afar it looks like, oh, they're celebrating Halloween, cool. But as he gets closer, he realizes something is wrong here. And I think it's just, with the longer this goes on, the longer Wanda has to be using this power, the more it's draining her, the more she's going to kind of offset some of those, offset some of the people that are not as important. What was your take on it?
I think until at least one of the two come around, and it would probably have to be Wanda. Like, everyone's kind of just in a state of arrested development. They're kind of
that's the name of the show. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
that's the Ron Howard moment in the Arrested Development. But go ahead.
But just they're just kind of there. They're not. It's one of those. I'm trying to figure out how to. I guess kind of like in a video game. Some of these NPCs are just kind of there doing stuff, but not really.
And sometimes they do the same thing, like they go the same route, or they start repeating the same lines and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like I think the best example is called draw distance, right? So in a video game, draw distance is when you're there, like the game generates what's around you and what you can see, but it's not going to generate anything past a certain point, either because your computer or your video game system can't handle that, and you're just not looking out that far. Maybe Wanda has like a certain draw distance. And
right, and that's when, for people that don't know, sometimes that's when you'll get like pop-ins and pops out. As you get closer to something, you might see a building pop into sight because it's now loading that building, because it was waiting until you got to a certain distance, so that way it would save memory space and not like have your computer or your game console get overheated and stuff like that.
That is why, for anybody who has heard of or knows of the game Silent Hill, that's why the first Silent Hill had the fog. That was Konami's way of not only making a great atmosphere, but cutting down on the draw distance. If the entire town was foggy, then you wouldn't be able to see very much in front of you until you got to a certain point. So that was their way of working around that with the PS1 hardware that they had at the time. But yeah, I think maybe Wanda's draw distance, which we will get to later, isn't that great. So maybe that's why when Vision goes to work, he wasn't seeing children at the playground. Wanda wasn't in that area. Or something. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense. But
well, I think we get the kid answer from Pietro. It sounds like she was trying to limit the kids having some sort of traumatic issue of, almost part of the ethics speech that he makes later. But I'm assuming these people were always on the outskirts, being a little slower doing things and kind of, getting stuck. That's the thing. We don't know if it's a new development or if this is how it always been on the outskirts, I guess.
Yeah, and now it kind of makes me wonder, is Wanda making those things happen at work for Vision? Or I don't know. Is there maybe like a certain autopilot program that they go on for certain things? But Vision is definitely getting more and more curious and realizing with like every growing second that there's something really wrong here. And then he runs into Agnes.
Yeah, so before we get there real quick, this is where the commercial jumps in. I feel like this is like almost like a Go-Gurt style commercial. Do you remember Go-Gurt?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought of. And then it actually turned out to be a yogurt commercial, which I thought was funny. But, it has a shark jumping out of the water. There's a kid stranded on an island.
The shark's like some sort of extreme surfboarder or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's like a claymation commercial, which was hot in the 90s as well. And gives them a Yo Magic, which is yogurt, I guess. And the kid can't open it and just ends up starving to death. Kind of a dark commercial, not really making me want to go buy some Yo Magic, to be honest. But what do you think this commercial means? We know that they've kind of had some sort of link to Wanda's like trauma, like the the Hydra stuff, the Von Strucker, her parents, the Stark bomb with the Stark toaster. Last week's was about her Lagos incident. Is this about, the way I kind of feel about it is maybe this is like, with it being called Yo Magic, like she was given magic, right? So she's the child on the island, but she couldn't use the magic to save, like her brother or Vision, and it's kind of like, yes, she was granted this gift, but she's not able to use it the way she wants. I don't know. Like the kid got the yogurt, but he wasn't able to open it and eat it. And that's how I was kind of taking it. It could be probably taken multiple ways, but what were you thinking about the yogurt?
Oh, I had absolutely zero clue. Like, I was watching this, and I wasn't sure if this was referring to a name somewhere, if this was referring to something in the comics. I don't know if the crab on the island meant something. Like, I literally sat there and kind of scratched my head because I was like, there was nothing I could glean out of this that I had any knowledge of. So I wasn't sure
it was
lost.
the most bizarre. It was the most bizarre of the commercials. But I think it really nailed the 90s commercials, to be honest.
Oh, that was... This episode... The hairstyles that Pietro and the kids have with the spiky hair.
Yeah.
Like I said, our surfboarding extreme shark there. Like, this brought me back to my 20s, man. This brought me back to my time of becoming a young man, for sure.
All right, before we get to to Vision again here, there's just some quick stuff in the town square. We have them walking past a movie theater, which is playing The Incredibles, and playing Parent Trap, which I thought were very interesting titles. Incredibles, because it's a family of superheroes.
Yes.
Parent Trap, we have, where it's about twins switching places and stuff like that, which we don't really get in this part, but we do have two sets of twins. We have Wanda, Pietro, we have Billy and Tommy, and we also have the fact that people are trapped there, so I guess it could be part of that as well. They're also both Disney films.
Was it here or was it earlier where when Wanda asked Pietro what happened to his accent, and Pietro kind of went back at her and said, well, what happened to yours?
I think it's here or maybe a little later, but yeah, she again kind of tests him again with, what happened to your accent, and he shoots it right back at her of what happened to yours. Which, if you're Wanda, you had to see it coming, I guess.
And honestly, in all fairness, like it's been so long since I've watched
Ultron.
So yeah, Age of Ultron, Civil War, stuff like that. Anything with her in it. So I can't remember how much of an accent her character had back then.
In Ultron, it was very thick. By Civil War, it had kind of started going around. I think Wanda makes a conscious effort usually to try to tone it down, and we kind of see it as soon as she gets back through the barrier sometimes. Like in the last episode, she kind of starts putting that accent back on. We heard her doing it when she was singing them the Sokovian lullabies, so it seems like it's something she can kind of slip right back into, but she makes that effort to not have one.
Yeah, and especially when she was talking to Monica and she brought up that she had a twin brother named Pietro, it kind of really came out there.
The way she said his name, yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, I know it was there at some point. I just really can't remember. But as I heard that, I was kind of interested too. Like, wait a minute. Didn't she have an accent? Like, what happened to it? Like, am I missing something?
You're right, though. It is this scene, actually, because this is when also Tommy uses his powers for the first time. He's got super speed. And this is where she tells him not to go past Ellis Avenue. And then we see Darcy, Jimmy, and Monica breaking into the surveillance building. And then we see this scene again being broadcasted about the accent thing right when they're cutting through there. Darcy hacks into the network and is trying to find the data from all of Hayward's devices and realizes that now Hayward, at some point, now has been able to actually see inside of the hex, and they actually have like all the people. That's just where they realize that people are a little slower on the edges, barely moving. But it seems like they're tracking the vibranium. It seems like Hayward still wants Vision for that unfinished, business that they were, I guess, testing on him before Wanda stole him back.
Yeah, you can't tell me that he wasn't trying to make a weapon out of Vision or figure out how to like reverse engineer it or something. Like I'll go to my grave thinking that one. That
I'm pretty sure they were, and I'm not sure
Wanda
if I talked about it.
Rescuing him.
I'm not sure if I talked about it with you or with Logan when I had him on to re-record, but we also get the line from Monica in episode 4 when she gets back to S.W.O.R.D. that it seems like they were doing some sort of weapon creation, because she said, well, it's sentient weapon observation and response. It doesn't have creation in the title. And he said, well, things have changed in the last 5 years, So it seems like they were trying to start making some weapons. And yeah, I guess they were using Vision's body to try to either reverse engineer or, Vision was kind of broken up in pieces, it looked like. And then Wanda probably hears about this somehow, goes in to collect him, and then she again has no idea how she got to Westview or how this started. So, maybe there's some room for theories about somebody else actually started it for whatever reason. But, I think Hayward's up to no good, and I think, he's really only concerned about Vision. I don't think he's concerned about anybody else in there.
So I read a very interesting theory on Hayward on the subreddit. We can probably get to that later. And I think this is, we talked about last week. I had asked you about Monica. Eventually, you said she becomes a superhero by the name of Photon.
Yeah.
And I believe this is the scene where we find out that she's changing on a cellular level from her going into the hex before.
Right. Twice. It's because she's went through the barrier twice, supposedly. Darcy says it's changed her blood.
When was it twice? She went in once.
So her going in and then her getting blasted out.
Okay. Oh, that makes more sense. But yeah, and it's changing her on like a cellular level. So maybe this is the start of where she starts to gain whatever powers or whatever things she does to become Photon.
I think so.
What kind of powers? What is she capable of? What does she do as Photon?
She's able to like absorb X-rays, absorb light. So I'm guessing, from the way I read it here, I guess she'd be able to like absorb it and then also kind of redistribute it as like, probably from her fist type of way. Like blasts. Okay. Type of way, like photon blasts and stuff.
We find out that her and Wu are going to see a secret person. Over the ridge.
I still no idea who this is. It sounds like it's the same person from maybe last episode. She was talking about how she could call was it an astrophysicist or somebody like that, aerospace engineer, something like that. She was like, I can call this person, and she pulled out her phone, and then she decided, I guess they had the drone, and she did the drone herself. But in this episode, again, she mentions, this is my way back in. My guy's going to meet me outside of here. We're going to, get a way back in, which seems to be maybe some sort of tank made of that photon that she was talking about last episode, about how she needs, like a bunker type material on wheels to get in. So it seems like maybe somebody's dropping that off. We don't know who. We don't know if this is somebody we're supposed to know. That's going to be a fun little cameo, or if this is a brand new character we're going to be introduced. Some people keep thinking like Reed Richards from Fantastic Four might get introduced this way. I don't see that happening yet. I think they would want to save the Fantastic Four for the movie itself.
What if it's Banner?
Oh, that would be interesting. He is a scientist.
He's incredibly smart. He's one of the few people who can match up wits with Tony Stark.
Right. So that would be interesting. I'm starting to think it might just be a newer character that might have a role in the future, but I don't think it's going to be any mind-blowing thing that some people have been thinking.
Professor Hulk shows up. That might. I know everybody missed it. Once again, I'm sorry. We talked about it last week that there was supposed to be. Elizabeth Olsen had said at one point there was an appearance from someone that was on the level of Luke Skywalker from Mandalorian. Professor Banner, the Hulk might be if he popped up. Maybe she knows Professor X. I talked about it. Once again, everybody missed it because I was all screwed up last week.
It's all right. They're hearing it now.
Yeah, but I talked maybe, because Vision said he had always wanted to work. It was somebody he wanted to work with. So we narrowed it down to maybe it was Professor X or maybe it was Magneto. Third was Doctor Strange. All three of those are incredibly smart people, so...
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna guess anything here because I'm just not sure. I don't want to get my hopes up that it's gonna be some sort of. There was rumors of Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch coming on here at some point. We only have 3 episodes left, so I'm not gonna put all my eggs in that basket either at this point because I just would be disappointed if he doesn't.
I know I'm totally wrong, but I'm just going to throw wild speculation out there in the hopes that maybe I'm right on one of these. Like, I know I'm wrong. Like, I'm not even going to act like one of these is a sure thing. Like, I'm way off, and we'll probably never see these 3. But I can hope.
Yeah, if you're not dreaming of something, what are you doing, right? I mean, you got to have a dream.
So, speaking of dreaming, I have to give credit to Marvel and Disney for trolling everybody with the adverts and everything leading up to this because we knew this was a Halloween episode and we saw Agnes in a witch costume. Mm-hmm. And as you talked about in previous episodes, there were rumors that Agnes was
Agatha Harkness, yeah,
who is a witch. And there was the clip of Agnes kind of cackling and laughing like a mad woman. And that sent everybody crazy saying, oh, we're going to find out she's Agatha. And they trolled us.
Yeah, I think there might still be something up with Agnes. But at this point, she was... Let's get to that, I guess, here. Vision, changes into his normal Vision look. He flies above the town. He sees a car stuck at stop sign. And he goes and sees it's Agnes. And... he does the same thing he did with Norm. He actually wakes her up because she was kind of.
Well, he tries talking to her first, and
yeah.
He tries talking to her first, and she talks about how she got lost, and he's like, "You got lost in the town you grew up in."
Yeah,
like she couldn't find the town square, and he's like, "You got lost in the town you grew up in," and he kind of
What was funny, she was asking where the town scare was. I think that was like what they were calling the Halloween event, and he was like, "It's in the town square," and. She was like, "Oh, I got turned around or lost or something."
Yeah, and now he's really thinking like, "Okay, what the hell is going on here?" Because, and as he kind of floats up in the air, and he sees her car off in the distance, you can kind of see, obviously, center of town. There's more lights and everything, but it kind of starts to dissipate out the further out from the center of town you get, until he sees her car, at basically what is the edge of town, which just so happens to
Ellis
be
Avenue, yeah.
Evans Avenue, yeah. And he does this little magic vision-y hand touch thing.
Yeah, wakes her up and she recognizes him, she recognizes him as an Avenger and asks if he's there to save them.
This is where I went from laying down where I had to sit up straight and keep my eye on it because, one, he didn't know what an Avenger was.
Yeah.
And that didn't get me so much because I remember he said he couldn't remember anything back before they moved to Westview. What got me was, am I dead? Why would you think that? Because you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait a minute here. And then she just kind of keeps screaming and repeating dead. And I don't know if
it's pretty
really,
freaky.
Yeah, I don't know if it really hit with them, but how do you react when someone tells you that you're actually dead?
Yeah, I don't know, because in his case, like you said, he doesn't remember anything, but he would feel like he's alive right now, and the way that she was just kind of frozen and stuff, I don't know if he would actually believe it, you know? Like, I feel like he'd think she's kind of crazy, I guess, and that's why he needs to test what's outside of the boundary, you know? He also wants to help people. He wants to, like you said, he's there to help, but what's an Avenger, right?
Why? Here's my question. Why wouldn't you believe it? Everything that you've seen in this town so far has pretty much led you to believe that there's something seriously wrong. And the fact that Wanda is probably controlling something and doing some weird, crazy stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I think I would just have a hard time believing I was dead if I feel like I'm alive. I mean, Vision might be feeling differently. I'm not sure how he's feeling, but for me, I'd be like, I feel pretty alive right now.
I would legitimately think that I was probably dead, considering I can't remember anything from a certain point before. Everything I've seen, he's even acknowledged that he saw, like, decades have gone by in the course of, like, overnight.
Right.
He's people are freaking out, talking about Wanda's causing them all kinds of pain and hell and everything else. That would probably be enough for me if I was conscious enough to be able to think about it, that I was probably dead and either in hell or in purgatory.
Yeah, but I'd also think he's kind of like a robot that doesn't really have a life to begin with. It's kind of an odd way of phrasing it. Like, I get we all phrase it as Vision is dead at times, but he's, you know, it can be kind of different in his sake, I guess. I feel like he could be almost switched back on if needed be, if they found some sort of substitute for the Mind Stone and kind of got his wires fixed again.
They can reboot him?
Yeah, just turn him off and turn him back on again.
Unplug him, plug him back, wait 30 seconds, plug him back in.
Yeah, so she keeps screaming dead, and he puts her back asleep because it's kind of freaky, and he's like, okay, she's cackling and saying
yeah,
dead.
This is where we got the whole witch thing, because you could kind of, like I said, from the previews and everything, you kind of saw she's, like, you could get that she's dressed as a witch. Her laughing is giving you, like, this witch cackle. And Catherine Hahn is fantastic in this role. And it like, I think they trolled us because they knew, like, everyone was gonna jump on this, and then once we watched it, we were like, man,
yeah, there goes all our theories, right? We get back outside now. Darcy decides to stay, right? She decides to stay because she needs to get through one more firewall to get through the most important, what she feels like is probably going to be very important files. But Monica and Jimmy have to go meet the guy in an hour, so they decide to go. She decides to stay. We get back into Halloween. This is where we get the town square scare stuff. Pietro and Wanda talk again. This is where she sees, like, his dead body with the bullet holes.
And I think this is where he says where he's trying to get info out of her, like, hey, you can trust me. I'm not your husband. I'm your brother.
Yeah, this is the ethics talk and him trying to say all that stuff, yeah. We get cut back outside of the hex, and it's implied Darcy broke the firewall, I guess, because she says something about, like, oh, Hayward, you know, like, sneaky guy, pretty much. Hayward is then in the room saying that, he's telling the agents it's time to move out, and Vision starts going through the wall. He's crossed Ellis Avenue. He's at the wall now. He starts trying to go through it. Sword pulls up. They get their guns drawn. That sounds like a funny sentence when it's sword and guns. Vision starts, like breaking away as soon as he gets through, and he's trying to tell Sword that the people inside need help. So even as he's like dying, he's still trying to help the people in there. We get a weird saying from Hayward here. I don't know what to make of this. He just says he really wants out, doesn't he?
Yeah, I found that kind of weird myself.
Yeah, I get that, like, that's what it looks like. He's really trying to get out. But also, I feel, is Hayward behind part of this? I don't know. You know, like, almost as a test of if he can get out of there. It's kind of like, the way he says it makes it like, I don't know. It was just a weird way of saying it. It could just be written, you know, as him being like, oh, he really wants out, huh? But the way he said it and is delivered, it seemed kind of spooky.
We all of a sudden we get, I don't know which twin it is.
Billy.
Sure. Who starts getting glimpses of what's going on with his dad.
And he even uses his magic to stop Tommy from running, which was pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah, this is where we see this is where we see what his powers are, I guess.
Yeah, which is more on Wanda's power level there.
And he starts seeing, and he can hear his dad, and he kind of he gets the gist of what's going on. And he's trying to tell his mom. This is where Pietro makes the comment of what your dead husband can't die a second time. And she blasts him halfway across town.
We also get Darcy being handcuffed as well, because she reveals herself asking why they aren't helping Vision.
Yeah, they did my girl Darcy wrong here. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
They did my girl wrong. So, you know, Vision's fighting. He's trying to get out. Pieces of him he's crumpling, and pieces of him are coming apart. I don't know what's happening to him. I don't know if they're going back into the hex.
I think so.
Just disintegrating.
I think it's that he's not actually
allowed out.
Yeah, and I think it's like almost reverting to what he would be outside of there. So like pieces of him are going back in. I'm not really sure.
That's kind of what I was thinking initially. Is maybe at some point he was going to turn into whatever his dead body would be, whatever it was that Wanda rescued from Sword headquarters. Mm-hmm. Wanda all of a sudden starts expanding the hex.
This was a great scene. This was the best part of the episode. You just get that expansion of the hex going to save Vision. That was her way of easily fixing this, you know, without having to go out of the hex and bring him back in. She just quickly starts expanding it. It covers Vision back up, and he's safe. And then it keeps going through the Sword people there and turns them all into circus, which I thought was pretty funny. I wonder if that was all Wanda's decision there. You know, you give me the two agents running that turn into clowns. And then you even go further past the Westview sign that we saw in episode 4. When Monica appeared with Jimmy, we go past that. We go to a used car place it continues going past. And we have Hayward and 3 other agents of Sword who are in a van escaping. And, you know, they're driving away with it, kind of starting to catch up on them. And Jimmy and Monica got out of there in time, but it seems like Darcy and everybody else that was in that vicinity have kind of got sucked in, and now they're part of this circus that is Westview, I guess.
Well, what sucks even more is when, you know, the dude, when the dude handcuffed her and the hex starts expanding, he just dips out on her. This is where I was saying, like, they did my girl Darcy wrong.
Saves himself, yeah.
You know, and she's pissed, which I get. I don't blame you. I don't blame her. You know, she's handcuffed to the front of a Humvee. And we talked about it before, where once everything goes into the hex, it turns into something that's more time appropriate. And with all the tents that the military and Sword and all them put up, I guess the closest thing that it would be like a circus with their tents. Sure, why not? What do you think we'll see Darcy as?
I think she'll be in the circus there, maybe. But will Vision like wake her up and she'll be able to share the information she just read, or how does she get that information to either somebody in there or somebody out of there to be able to explain what she saw at that last firewall and stuff? That's what I'm wondering.
So there's hope from people on the subreddit that the next episode, we will see her as a waitress, kind of going back to her two broke girls persona. That's a hope a lot of people on the subreddit have. And there was the comment earlier from what's the guy's name who's in charge of everything?
Kevin Feige.
No. The director there, the director of Sword.
Oh, Hayward, yeah.
Hayward, when he makes the comment of which one of you is the sassy best friend.
Yeah.
So everybody, there's a bunch of talk on the subreddit that maybe that was hinting at that. And in all fairness, we haven't seen a diner or anything. It'd be great to just, even if she's just a quick glimpse of her in the diner, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so we have, then it hits the credits. We see Wanda stop expanding it. Her eyes turn back to normal. And that was...
Then we get the 3 worst words every Friday evening. Please stand by.
Oh man, it's so good. I just can't wait. I mean, we only have 3 left. It's gonna probably go by super fast, but I am so far. It's been every Friday looking forward to this has been such a ride, and it's made my Fridays so much better since The Mandalorian has finished its season 2. So I can't wait to see where this series goes and how this gets wrapped up. I feel like it has to. I don't think she can keep expanding it throughout the rest of the world, because if the timing of Far From Home is correct, that's just a few months after this, and the whole world was not under Wanda's spell then. So.
Was there any mention of Sword or any of these characters of Far From Home? Anything that maybe you could look back on now and maybe you could see that would tie these two together loosely or anything?
I would say the end credit scene of Far From Home can tie into this pretty well. Kind of on the Sword side. It doesn't mention Sword, but it in that end credit scene there's a bit that is very much what Sword would usually be doing, that I could see that tying in somehow, but no, so far I don't see anything else that would tie into how this was completed in there. Obviously, I feel like because one was coming out a year and a half before this one, that they didn't want to mention anything too big there, but we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to look up here now for some Easter eggs, not too many. People kind of doing some stretching for some of these as well. So
there was one I saw and it goes back to your theory about Mephisto.
Mm-hmm.
Pietro made the comment to the 2 kids. What he said, all right, you little devils.
You little demon spawn or whatever. Yeah.
Go raise hell or something like that. There's a theory I saw on the subreddit that maybe what is the director's name again? Dang it.
Matt Shakman?
No, of Sword. I'm sorry.
Oh, director of Sword. Sorry, I keep bringing the real life stuff out. Hayward, yeah.
Of Hayward, that maybe Hayward is so interested. Someone put out the theory that maybe his wife is one of the people inside the hex, and that's why he's got such a grudge about what's going on in there, and maybe he's trying to get his wife out or whatever.
See, I don't buy that as much. I really feel like with the way he's tracking Vision,
that's a loose one.
Yeah, he's just really I like, and him taking out Wanda last week, trying to. When Monica points out, we have no idea what happens if we took her out. Like, does it all end? That's what he thinks happens, but we actually don't know. It could end up killing everybody in there with her inside their head, So I think he's playing kind of fast and loose there. I think he's really only worried about the vibranium in Vision at this point.
What about the comments he made to Monica about her mom?
Yeah, where he says, it's a good thing you weren't here when she died because you don't have the stomach for this job, because I guess it's implied Monica would have took over if she was there when Maria died. Kind of a brutal retort there.
Before this series is over, I want to see Monica punch him in the face.
Yeah, you gotta get in line there. I feel like Monica and Wanda and Darcy and Jimmy can all kind of get in a line there and just one after the other punch Hayward in the face. It makes me wonder if he's going to survive this series. Do you have any guesses if he lives or dies at the end of this?
I don't know much about Sword at all, but I would like to see if he stayed alive as kind of like an antagonist against other people. And I don't know what other things Sword will have going forward, obviously, but
they're pretty much going to be the new Shield. I think you'll see them a lot going forward.
But maybe having someone at the top of Sword, who's not necessarily on board with everything going on, could be interesting.
Right.
There's also been the theory that maybe Sword has been compromised.
Yeah, I think if so, I hope it's not like the Hydra twist where it was like, half of the organization. But if you could have like Hayward and maybe somebody else at the top is, kind of not really compromised, but just being kind of like, using this for their own kind of personal gain a bit, which is a little different. I don't think they're fully evil. I think Hayward is trying to do a job, but I think he wants to better himself by, using Vision somehow, like we mentioned before. And I think he's too obsessed with that, where he's kind of blinding himself to some of the other issues that this is causing. And you know what? That's probably going to be proven wrong next week. We have no idea. But what I do want to say here, it looks like we have maybe one episode left of the time periods, which is probably like the Modern Family Office type style mockumentary coming up. Then we have episode 8, which would be really cool if this is when we saw Wanda's POV of the whole series. There's some clips in the trailers from stuff from like Wanda, turning black and white and things kind of changing around the house and stuff that and maybe even her viewpoint of her saving Vision. We might get her point of view. That would be a good penultimate episode, I think. And then episode 9 tying everything else up, I think might be the way it goes. But I think that would be a great way to kind of tie it all off. I really want to see Wanda's POV of this whole situation, see her changing the house around, when she decides to do that, how she created it, why she was going to save Vision, how did she know, that kind of stuff. I think that would be great for a penultimate episode because it kind of answers a lot of your questions then, and then that whole last episode can be about tying everything up and finishing the main plot line.
With this show, I'm getting levels of excitement that I haven't really had since the first couple seasons of Lost.
I can see that, yeah. It does kind of remind me about that at times.
Where every week it's something different while it continues on with what happened the week before, right? But every week it's something different, and every week, especially during the first few seasons, we're leaving you so confused but intrigued and wanting to know and see more, and starting to go down rabbit holes. Like Lost came around at a really good time because it was not the start of the internet, but it was the start of a lot of things going on the internet.
Like message boards, a lot, even podcasts. That was one of the first podcasts I ever listened to, was the official Lost podcast with Damon and Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse that they started in like season 4, I think it was, season 3. That was like one of the first podcasts I ever listened to, and that kind of was an official podcast. And that era of, I was on the IMDb message boards talking about that show, and
everyone throwing their wild theories out there. But I haven't had this much intrigue and excitement in a show since I've watched like that first episode of Lost and those first couple episodes that first season, where I was literally every week was like, what is going to happen next? Like, and where obviously it wasn't binge worthy, which I need to finish Lost. I need to binge that again. I have all the discs, but
it is one of my favorite shows of all time, actually. So
where, that was a point. That was one of the first I remember appointed viewings where Sunday night, I think it was Desperate Housewives and then Lost. Man, if you didn't watch Lost on Sunday night, and I was still in Army time, and you went to work the next morning, man, there was no, hey, I haven't seen it yet, keep the spoilers away. Nah, you was going to have to either go away from everybody because you was going to hear about what was going on and wild theories and things. And that's one of the things I love about this is Friday comes, I keep myself off of social media when it comes to WandaVision. And I've
started muting WandaVision terms on Twitter on Thursday night, so that way when I wake up I don't see anything.
Well, I get up early in the morning. I check just for like major news. I go on Twitter just to check major news or whatever, see what's going on. And then from there, maybe I'll get a chance once or twice during the day to do a real quick check. But Friday, because I'm busy and I'm delivering all day, I don't really have the chance to go through. So
right.
I'm lucky enough to where I can disassociate myself enough from it for, a period of time to where until I get home, get on that couch, I'm going to be completely in the dark about what happened. And that's great. But yeah, this is definitely conjuring up levels of excitement like that.
Well, this is what's so good about it being weekly releases, we have the time to talk about it, theorize, and kind of digest the episode. I've been able to watch it, some episodes I've watched 3 times a week. Sometimes I watch twice. It's just, so much better. Like we've mentioned before, I think, when you do it all at once, you don't dominate the news cycle as much. Like when a new season of Stranger Things comes out, it's talked about for maybe a month, not even, because then you get this whole awkward conversation where I ask Casey, I say, hey, Casey, have you watched Stranger Things season 3? And he's like, yeah, I've watched the first 3. And then I binge watched all 8 already. And I'm like, oh, wait until you see the rest. Let me know when you're done. And then he finishes it. And then he says, I'm done. I'm like, wasn't that crazy? You can't, talk about... Nobody's talking about, oh, how good was episode 4? Because you're usually talking about how it wrapped up by the time that you catch up on everything. You have to avoid spoilers like crazy because somebody's always ahead of you, Yeah,
there's that. There's someone's always ahead. There's someone who had to work and couldn't watch but a few episodes. There's someone who, you're married... So I don't know if I'm pretty sure you and your wife have a rule about one of you can't watch it without the other. So
Yeah, I've tried that.
like I said before, I listened to Fake Doctors, Real Friends with Zach Braff and Donald Faison about Scrubs. Zach Braff's girlfriend is away right now, so they brought up WandaVision, but he was like, "Hey, I haven't watched it yet because I can't watch it till she gets back." So, you have to tiptoe around certain things or you have to be a bad spouse or bad significant other and break that rule, which can cause a divorce.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it tough. And, I've seen a lot of sentiment about WandaVision specifically where people are like, well, this doesn't fit the weekly model. We should have been able to binge it. And I just don't know what those people are thinking because
I hard disagree with that. I think this is perfect for a weekly model.
This is perfect. It was a little slow in the first two. That's why they gave you 2 on 1 week. And since then, it's been weekly, and it's been so great to be able to discuss all of this. And, since episode 4 especially, it's been kind of like, okay, we're getting the real world stuff and the, Westview stuff, and things are starting to really escalate here. We got 3 left, and man, am I excited. So
yeah, it definitely picked up once we started getting outside the hex.
Yes. Yeah.
Not to say that the first couple episodes were bad, because it was just pretty much contained of what was going on with WandaVision. But once you start bouncing back and forth and you're seeing things from other points of view, or you're seeing outside the hex and you can kind of see stuff in their monitors about either what's going on or stuff that you might have already seen, or stuff that you're like, oh man, we found out a couple weeks ago that there's actually more stuff that's going on that we don't see from these episodes. Stuff like that, and you're wishing like, oh, I wish I could see these quote unquote lost episodes of WandaVision that they get to see from outside the Hex.
Yeah. It's we could talk all day about this series, seriously. We sometimes do. We get really close to an hour and a half each one. Man, when you add up how long the episodes are, and then you add up how long our podcast episodes are, it's gonna be maybe a very long time. We go longer than the episodes are. If you want to give us your thoughts and your theories, you can reach us on Twitter at TOInfinitySaga. Email us at marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com or facebook.com/InfinitySagaBeyond. We will catch you all next week when we break down episode 7. I can't wait to see what that's titled. The titles have become a little bit of a fun thing as well for me as we started getting them. I'm so glad they did name them, and when we first recorded episodes 1 and 2, it was just called episode 1 and 2 on Disney Plus. So thankful for the titles, and we will catch you all next week with episode 7.